Sony may have just made the biggest mistake of their entire existence. And I'm not joking in this. You know, right now, publishers in the video game industry, they're trying to acquire. You have Take-Two buying, I think it was Zynga, trying to get into the mobile gaming department. You have Microsoft trying to buy ABK to not only get in the mobile gaming market, to create their own mobile platform, potentially, to compete with Google and Apple, to make sure that they have a larger catalog of games for people who want to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. There's a lot of reasons why Microsoft is making this deal. They're also doing it for to have talent, to have enough people to continuously make games for their Game Pass service. And you have Sony buying Bungie, and they were buying a couple other studios prior to that. And I think they may have just stopped themselves from being able to buy companies for a while. Like any company that's related to the gaming industry, especially publishers. Developers, they might be able to get away with, depending on the size and how much money they're spending and whatnot. But definitely publishers, I think, are off the table for Sony. And the reason why I say this is because Sony, as far as I'm aware, even though their headquarters is in the United States, is still a Japanese company. And the issue here is when they went to go and try and do anything possible to try and get the Activision Blizzard King deal blocked, they created a new market. A market that no one other than Sony apparently seemed to be aware of its existence. And that is the high-performance console gaming market, which only includes Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo Switch, I'm sorry, you're not in there. What would be the other one? The Steam Deck is not in there. PC gaming is not in there. Mobile gaming is not in there. So it's just these two. And I'm not sure if they really have paid attention to their own market, because in a lot of other markets around the world, like in the United States, it's kind of close. You get into Europe, PlayStation has a pretty strong lead. But if you get into Japan, apparently, under this new definition for a market, Sony has a 95 to 98% market share. And I don't think people would have taken this as seriously, but it was them and the regulators, around the world that basically came up with and coined this new market. Which leads me to believe that if Japan does not want to potentially run afoul of the 2019 trade agreement with the United States, they're probably going to have to seriously actually investigate Sony. They're going to have to take it seriously. I know a lot of people say, they're not going to do anything to their own company, but this trade deal might be the thing that actively works against Sony. And even if Japan didn't want to actively go against them, this deal with the United States may actually force them to. Because there's a lot of things outside the gaming market that Japan is wanting to do, and there's markets outside of gaming that Japan is also pretty big in. I mean, in the West, manga is pretty popular. Anime is pretty popular. Light novels is getting up there. I see a lot of people on Reddit buying a lot of light novels. Then you just chuck in the Nintendo Switch, which isn't a part of the other market. It's not a part of the high performance, but it is a part of the Japan's gaming market. I don't think Nintendo wants to lose potential trade with the United States or the West if just because of Sony acting like a spoiled brat. So we have a situation where Sony may actually be investigated. Now, I'm not sure what would come of this. It might not be anything too public, but it might potentially bar them from buying Japanese companies or publishers. So, Square Enix might be off the table, Capcom, Sega, Bandai Namco, all those would probably be off the table and might even actually apply to, since, this is a Japanese company, Might even apply to some of the Western companies. I'm not sure how far this reaches. Maybe they're going to work something out. Maybe Sony, the Japanese government, and Microsoft might work something out where maybe Microsoft won't have to really necessarily worry too much about buying a couple publishers in Japan. Maybe they go out and acquire Sega and Capcom. That's a possibility. Could go out and maybe buy Sega and Square Enix. Yes, that's a possibility now because of Sony's own arrogance. I know a lot of people that were on the Xbox side, on the PC gaming side, on the Nintendo side, and on the PlayStation side, where they're fans of those consoles. Not the super crazy people. I don't really talk about them that much. Like the normal fans of these platforms basically all came to the conclusion that Sony acquiring Square Enix seems like a common sense thing. Like it's like it's going to happen. But they may have literally stopped themselves from being able to do that because of creating that high performance gaming market, which they're technically, or maybe not technically, but could be considered a monopoly. And we also have had leaked documents showcasing potential anti-competitive practices from Sony. One such potential anti-competitive practice, which might get them in trouble, is the fact that, since they have such a huge market share, them going out and potentially actively putting in their contracts, we will do a timed exclusives, and this can never appear on Game Pass, the Xbox Game Pass, or the Xbox console. Such possible games that could be included in this could be the Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's one potential one. Final Fantasy 16. We don't know what the contract for that looks like. The next Final Fantasy VII Remake, I believe Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 Rebirth, which I think is scheduled for either later 2023 or early 2024 to come out. Those games might actually have that kind of contract. And I think the part where people might not understand about exclusivity, they say, well, exclusivity is fine. It's been in the gaming industry for a long time. Yes, exclusivity ain't so bad. Even time exclusivity ain't bad either. But it is probably how it's phrased. If it just says we want a time exclusive and this appears on no other platforms, maybe that can, that ain't so bad. But if it literally says something along the lines of not on Xbox Game Pass, like even past the period is up, but basically saying this can't ever appear on Game Pass or Xbox, that's where the line starts to blur and could be considered anti-competitive. We don't know what the actual contracts say. That is why it's being investigated. And if there's nothing to it, and just Square Enix says, yeah, we don't want to invest the money bringing it to Sony, to Xbox, then that's not going to be that bad of a problem. But if there is actual potential anti-competitive practices involved in these contracts, that is where it could end up coming to bite Sony as well. So we're just going to have to wait and see. We're probably not going to hear anything about this for probably till later this year, the earliest. Probably the second half of the year. Because I don't know how quickly this takes, but a lot of times when governments are involved, it is on the slower side. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Sony may have actually made it so that they are unable to buy Square Enix because of their large market share in a market that they actually invented? Or do you think, they're just going to allow Microsoft to acquire a couple publishers in Japan to kind of balance it out a bit? Because if they get access to Sega and if they get access to someone like Capcom, I think the market share for Microsoft would go up significantly in Japan and would kind of balance it out and wouldn't make it wouldn't be as big of a deal. Actually, that would be kind of insane. I'm just thinking, imagine if you get a Capcom and Sega with the resources to make the games that they want to make. Maybe Capcom sometimes is a little bit limited by resources and what they're able to do, for certain games. Imagine having the funding of Microsoft, what they could potentially do. Maybe they'll actually, for example, like like in the Resident Evil 3 remake, you know, where they cut out certain things. Imagine if they had the resources of Microsoft. Maybe they could have actually added the content that they cut out into there. Maybe they would have had enough time. I'm assuming the reason why that didn't get added was due to time constraints and limitations of the resources, like not being able to delay it. I don't know if that's true, but that could be honestly great for Capcom. I'm just going to have to wait and see, because Capcom right now is hitting its stride. They're just constantly nailing it out of the park, so they might not want to sell. But who knows, maybe if Microsoft offers them a bigger check, they might. Or they might just go for a different publisher, because Microsoft has been going for the ones that aren't doing too good. You know, Square Enix kind of fits that bill. Sega, I'm not sure. They've had a couple hits, or like a lot of people praise like their Persona games, but I'm not sure how well that exactly is monetary wise. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.